What is up guys, it is Jordan here and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing something that's a bit of a sad one because I've had tons of comments about this game. When I released my Ground Branch video, tons of people commented about this game and asked why I wasn't talking about this one or how this was the true SWAT sequel, and I basically ignored all those comments, and not because I didn't want to talk about the game or lack of knowledge of the game, but because it's something that I was extremely excited about, and I'm also now unfortunately worried about it, which is basically going to be the topic of this video. So for all of you that commented about where Ready or Not is or why I didn't talk about it or anything else, then this is your wish granted, because I'm going to talk about Ready or Not, which is the true SWAT sequel potentially. That made no sense. Kind of made sense. So for those of you that don't know what the game is, Ready or Not is basically a hyper-realistic or super-realistic SWAT-based game, very similar to SWAT 4 if you've played that. I've talked about SWAT 4 before and tons of you seem interested in that game, so I'm sure you do know about it. But take SWAT 4, give it modern graphics, tons of new features, tons of more realistic features and updated gameplay, and you basically have Ready or Not with a co-op campaign, basically everything you could ask for on paper if you're interested in that style of game, and genuinely the true sequel to SWAT 4. This game was announced quite a while ago now. I think it was over a year ago. I actually made a video on the original announcement trailer, which you're probably seeing in the background right now, and it looked very promising, and they said that it was going to be released in early access some point in the near future. So that leads me on to talking about the current situation, which is where is the game now? Now, if you've been following them on social media at all or the website, you will know that they've gone dark for quite a while now, which is why I'm making this video and why I haven't talked about the game in the past, because honestly, I've heard things about it and it's been making me start to worry quite a lot that the game is not in a good situation right now. The last time they released a full dev blog, which they were meant to be doing more regularly, was March the 11th, or 11th of March, sorry. So that is like, what, 7 months ago? I don't know off the top of my head, I can't math right now. But that's a long time ago since they've made a dev blog, and they even said in this dev blog that it had been quite a while since they had talked about the game and they were going to try and release information more regularly. But clearly it didn't go that way and it became worse, and they started talking less about the game. The last time they tweeted officially was on November 1st. That's actually not too long ago, but it was a very short, once again, like a very brief teaser of pretty much nothing, to be honest. Now I know it's meant to build hype, but they kind of already did that a couple of times. They were talking about releasing for pre-orders not that long ago in early access, so to go from that to then just another very short teaser that releases nothing is kind of disappointing. And I know they're an early access developer, so it's up to them when and how they release content. But when you say to the community, oh hey, we're opening up for pre-orders soon, you're gonna be able to play the game very soon, and then you go quiet for like 6 months and then you just release another very short clip that just says soon to it, it's kind of disappointing for the community. You have to admit that most people really didn't want that. They were expecting a little bit more, especially because it was promised not that long ago. Same situation on Facebook. The last post was on the 1st of November, and that's the same thing. It was the short teaser. They've retweeted things since then, but nothing solid has come from them. And even on their Instagram, they've posted a couple of pictures here and there, but they don't, again, it's not really anything new. Most of the screenshots are from the trailers that they did release back in, I think it's the beginning of the year when the big trailer came out. So that leads me on to the next point, which is only tiny amounts of gameplay have been shown. Nothing solid really. You're seeing all the gameplay in the background. Everything they've released I'll put in the background footage of this video, so by now you've probably already seen everything they've released like 3 times over, because it's really not a lot of content, which is kind of worrying because you have this massive community of people that are really excited for this, but right now it's pretty much based solely on words from the developers. And I know it's like unfair to say that they're going to do the same thing as what other early access devs do, but with the track record of early access you kind of have to be a bit skeptical that it's gonna just be false promises, because that just seems to be the way gaming is these days. Unless you have actual gameplay, it's impossible to tell if the game is actually progressing towards what it was meant to be. And even when you have trailers and gameplay, some people still don't even trust those these days because everything's so fabricated. So with pretty much no information, it's impossible to say this game's even close to being what they want it to be. And again, it goes back to the fact that they've been promising for a while now that it was going to come out soon, there's going to be a big trailer reveal, all sorts of things, and it just never really happened, which makes you wonder if there's something going on internally or what. Like, I don't know, but they've been pretty shoddy with releasing information and sticking to promises. The next point is something I've also briefly just talked about, but we were meant to have an early access by now. I'm pretty sure it's by now. I have to double check that. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the comments, but I remember they were talking about opening it up for pre-orders, and lots of people even said then, they were like, oh, we haven't seen any gameplay, so how can you open it up for pre-orders when you haven't even released any gameplay whatsoever? And they didn't really respond to that, which I guess because it's a good point. Like, they were trying to get people to pay for it even though they hadn't actually shown off anything yet. I think they did eventually say the big trailer would come out soon and then it would release shortly after, But once again, we're coming to the end of 2018 now, and that looks like it's not going to happen. And the problem with this is if they just like tweeted or did something and said, hey look, we're having some delays, we're going to push the game back, that's fine, but they just haven't said anything at all. And I know someone's going to comment about how they haven't actually given a release date yet, and no, they haven't, but at the same time they did also start to tell people that it was going to be releasing very soon, and they were preparing to sell the game in early access. So you kind of have to say that's not really a solid release date, but that's almost confirming that people don't have to wait very long at all, and then to go silent for like 8 months is a bit much. And it's also worrying because it means clearly someone somewhere in the company said, hey, this game's nowhere near ready, push it back. The final point is something that I've heard, like, I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm going to say speculated here, but I did also hear that they've had financial issues recently, which is part of the reason why there's been delays and all sorts of things going on within the company. And although I say speculation, it's also very plausible because they're a small indie dev company going for a very big project. It's very possible that they've just bitten off more than they can chew and they've run into financial difficulties. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, it wasn't even backed by anything. I think it's independently backed. Again, I could be wrong about that one, but I don't think it was ever kickstarted or anything like that. So where their financial resources are coming from, I'm not entirely certain. I don't know tons about the company, if I'm being totally honest. So that one's, I'm not too sure about. But if they did have financial issues, that does explain a lot as to why we haven't heard much and why it keeps getting pushed back, or at least seems like it's being pushed back. So now we're going to talk about why these things may have happened, and honestly there's only two answers, and one of them I've pretty much already covered, so I'm going to briefly go over it again. But the first one is everything I've said is mostly true, and they've simply bitten off more than they can chew. The game they were talking about would require massive amounts of funding, a big load of staff. It would need a lot to make that entirely what they wanted it to be. Like, they were talking about tackling things that big AAA developers don't even want to do, and part of that is because it just costs too much for big companies to even consider doing, and the other part is that most big companies just don't want to add anything other than loot boxes these days. But you get what I'm going at. It's a very, very ambitious game with tons of things they plan to do, and you have to sit there and think, do they have the money for this? Do they have the staff for this? The manpower? And then when it comes down to that, then the company themselves have to make the decision of, do we release this game like 5 years from now and take forever and make it exactly what we want it to be, or do we release it early with tons of the features we wanted missing and not the game we were talking about? The second thing is hopefully the more promising one, and that is perhaps nothing at all has happened. Maybe they've just gone quiet because they're working hard. Maybe they decided they wanted more content when they actually released it instead of what they had at the time, and they're simply just working hard to get out a better product when it actually launches. If that is the case, I will be the first one to make a video praising the developers in the game because I really, really want this game to succeed. So going forward, what can we expect? I know everyone wants to know about the future of the game, and unfortunately I can't give you those answers. I don't work at the company, I don't have an inside man, I have no further information than anyone else. I just happen to be super interested in the game and willing to dig into it to try and find everything possible. But there's two possible outcomes for this game. One is that they go quiet for a bit longer, then they will start to finally release gameplay, and maybe even if it launches in early access, it shapes up to be quite a filled game with lots of content in it and actually, something that resembles what they want it to be. I'm saying that because it's very unlikely that this game's going to suddenly just launch fully with everything, because games these days, especially indie developers, will always go for early access first. So when it does launch, it will most likely still be lacking content, but hopefully it will, be a very good step towards what the game's supposed to be and still provide entertainment. The second option is hopefully one that won't happen, but that's that it could fall into the generic FPS early access hole that tons of other games fall into, which is the game will launch, it will have a severe lack of content, it won't be anywhere near what it's supposed to be, basically just a tech demo that you can play, and it will just slowly crawl its way to a more playable game but still never reach its potential. I say that as a realist, not as someone that wants that to happen. I don't want that at all, and I hope it doesn't. And I'm not saying the developers have given off any hints that will happen, but it's a very common trend among indie developers right now for FPS games, especially more realistic ones. They talk about all these realistic features the games are going to have, and then it just never has those. I hate to pull up names, but Interstellar Marines is a game that is a very good game, to be fair, but that's another game that launched in early access and then it's been years and it's pretty much stayed as very much the same game. Despite having tons of promised features, it fell into that trap and then ran out of money. And it's a sad thing, but it does happen, and hopefully it won't happen for this game, but those are the two things we can speculate right now. Hopefully we will hear more about the game very soon, and we can finally start making some actual content about the game and get people hyped for it, and hopefully it will become the true successor to SWAT 4, because we've been waiting a very long time for that game. But anyway guys, that is all the content I have for you today. There's nothing else really to talk about the game, unfortunately, until the developers start releasing more information, but as soon as they do, I will make content on it straight away, because I didn't realize that so many of you knew about the game and were interested and wanted to hear about it. Like, I got so many comments about this game, but honestly I just thought because they'd been quiet, no one really wanted to hear about it. But Now that I know there's an interest for it on this channel, I would definitely be keeping you guys in the loop as soon as I hear anything or anyone hears anything about this game. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, I would appreciate it if you did smack that like button and subscribe for some more awesome content, and I will see you guys in the next one.